Hey there, welcome to episode 11 of the Adrian and Joe Show. Here's a quick recap of what you need to know. It's 24 minutes of raw business analysis and change talk, time-boxed, unedited riffing. And when the countdown timer buzzes, we're done. I'm Joe Newbert, and as always, I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Adrian Reed. How's it, Adrian? Please tell us what's up in this episode. Adrian? Adrian, you're on mute. Ah, that's right. Previously on the Adrian and Joe Show.
But until next time, enjoy and keep growing. So see you on the next episode in the next series.
Did you just commit to another series?
No, that was a
podcast.
That was a Freudian slip. No, that was a Freudian slip.
And then I got the email. Dear Joe. Dear Joe, letters never end well. Working with you has been a lot of fun, but I just don't think I realistically have the capacity to commit to a second series right now. Perhaps we put it on ice and see how the year progresses. Best regards, Adrian. So we're on a break. Welcome to the and Joe Show. We were on a break, which means it's okay if I co-host with other people, right? You'll always be my first co-host, Adrian, but the and Joe Show must go on. So welcome to a new season with a new look, video Nogle, and a new co-host. Please join me and put your hands together for the Bruce Lee of business analysis, Paula Bell. Welcome, Paula.
Hi, Joe. How are you, Bruce Lee? Huh? I love it. I love it. I love it. This is gonna be so much fun. How you been? How you been?
I've been good. It's nice to see you here. I'm stoked to see you on the show, Paula. I know you've done. You were episode 5 in season 1 with Adrian and I, and of course you were. I think it was season 2, episode 2 on our sister pod, Her Bold Story with Inga David. So you're pretty much part of the 168 FM crew already. And I see now you've got the t-shirt, right?
Yes. I'm a co-host, officially a co-host. I'm excited. I'm honored too, but I'm excited.
So cool. So I don't think we need a recap of who I am. But for those who may not have met you before, Paula, won't you give us the 101 of Paula Bell?
Sure. Well, as you know, my name is Paula Bell. I'm also known as the BA martial artist in the industry. That is where that whole Bruce Lee connotation came in. So I'm a 2nd degree black belt, and I mesh martial arts concepts with business and professional concepts. I have been a business analyst, or actually, let me put it this way. I've been in project management in almost every single role over the last 2 decades. I'm not going to tell my age though, but over the last 2 decades. And so I had the wonderful pleasure of meeting Joe in person when I was in South Africa in 2019. And I was one of the keynote speakers and did a lot of speaking out in the South Africa region. That was a huge milestone of my career. I've always wanted to visit South Africa. So that was awesome and an amazing experience. And I plan to go back. But I am a speaker. I am a coach and a consultant. I'm a master life coach, a goal success life coach, a career life coach. I do diversity, equity, and inclusion coaching as well. And then I also do professional domain coaching with business analysis, project management, leadership, all of that good stuff. So that's a little bit about me and who I am if you've never had any experience with me in the past.
Yeah. And I remember commenting to you when we were talking about getting this season started and just like how much you do and how much you are. And you actually failed to mention some of your exercise stuff in that little build up too. I mean, there's a whole host of stuff you get over. But I want to come back to this black belt thing. And one of the things that I recall, and I try to remember, I might have to look at my crib notes here. I try to remember, well, we talked about the 5 tenets when we, and obviously they're to do with karate. But it was quite amazing how applicable they are to business too, which is perhaps where you get this crossover between business and between martial arts. But courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. And I mean, they're wonderful things to live in the work that we do as well in business change, right?
Absolutely. And you nailed it, Joe. And in the right order, too. You nailed that. So, yes, definitely foundation. That is the foundation of the art. That is the foundation and our guiding principle. And that is the expectation as a black belt, that no matter where you are always displaying those 5 tenets. And it is very crucial as you do project work, because if you think about it, you have to be respectful of people. So that's your courtesy. People need to trust you. So that's your integrity. You need to persevere, because most projects don't go like you want them to go at all, right? So you have to have that perseverance. You need to have self-control, because sometimes you do want to slap people, but you can't. That's not allowed, right? And then that indomitable spirit brings all the tenets together. You can't have that fear. So you have to have that confidence. You have to go in there knowing that you have the expertise and the skill set. So yeah, that's just the foundation and guiding principles for life in general.
Yeah, no, they're so good, and I mean, I must say, I've sort of I've had them on mind quite a lot since we chatted, and just trying to bring, it sort of brings a level of peace in a way to you. It's almost like a meditation, I found. Like if you try and keep these things front of mind, if you try and remind yourself when you perhaps slip out of them a little bit, they're quite nice in just, keeping you calm, even if everybody else is in some form of chaos.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I leverage them quite a bit, because it keeps you grounded. So if you think about martial arts, the whole premise of martial arts is to be centered. So your centering is really important. Your covers, your strikes, everything's from the center. So the whole point is to stay centered. And those tenets is the mental side of it, to keep you centered. And then you can add all of the physical aspects to it, the strikes and the punches and all that good stuff. So it's a way to just keep you grounded.
Grounded and central. So let's take that little thread that you've just landed me so nicely here, right? So there are no hard and fast rules here on the Paula and Joe show. But the general plan is to do about 9 episodes. And we typically pick a broad theme that's going to try and hook those 9 episodes together, just to try and get some thread going between them. And when we were chatting in prepping for this show, you mentioned goals and objectives as being a sort of area that you'd like to explore and talk about. And that's goals and objectives in the sort of personal ones rather than the projecty ones. And that starter idea developed in a conversation between us, and something I'm hugely keen for, and I think it follows on from that sort of central grounding. So what is season 2 going to be about? What's the overall theme? What's our tagline here, Paula?
Your optimal self. It's all about being your optimal self, right? Being holistic. It's not always just about work. You've got to be your best and to bring forth your best. Like 2 of my mottos this year are the best you in 22, and we've got work to do in 22. But in order to bring those forth, we got to be well. We have to be well as a person mentally, spiritually, or soul and body, right? So it's all about mind, body, and soul. It's not just about the value you add to your organization, but it's also about the value you add to yourself, to your friends, to your family, and making sure you're taking that time to get some self-care in there, appreciating who you are, celebrating who you are, celebrating your wins, celebrating your successes, and just taking the time to just be you, to just appreciate life, to smell the roses, as they say. So this is a holistic conversation. It's not just about the techniques anymore. It's about how can we pour into our audience and have our special guests pour into our audience and talk about how can we be our optimal selves and how does that affect mind, body, and soul? How can we get that holistic being? So I'm excited about it because this is my bread and butter right here. This is what I love to do. So I'm excited about spending time on your just being your optimal self, being the best you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just simple, isn't it? 2 words. It's like you said, grounded and centered, optimal self. And you know, one of the things that comes through from meditation is that actually what you need to learn to do is accept that everything that happens around you is going to happen around you. There's very little control that you can bring to actually make things happen in the way that you want them to happen. As you said, projects rarely go the way we plan. I mean, that's a simple sort of example. But if the only thing we can control is ourselves, then being this optimal self is such a wonderful thing. And I'm excited for this. I think the topic of sort of, you know, being human at work again, you know, understanding that it's not just like somebody, a resource. I mean, it's a terrible word in projects, resource. I try very hard to stay away from using that word, you know, because people are not resources. So it's coming back to the fact that people are human and that there's other aspects to their life beyond those 8 hours that they spend at work. You know, there's 8 hours at home and there's probably 8 hours sleeping if we got things in check, if we got them in balance. So if we unpack this optimal self and you know, this mind, body and soul that you talked about, what sort of conversations do we want to be having in this season, Paula?
Well, I would have to say this first. If we're going to talk about mind, body, and soul, the conversations have got to be very transparent, authentic, and real. We can't hold back. There's probably going to be some conversations that are going to be uncomfortable. And that's okay, because that's how when you get out of your comfort zone is when you get uncomfortable, right? And that's where you really start to build and get strength and get knowledge and start to get different perspectives. But what I would love to see is some conversations. I would love to see still our normal project management sort of things like prioritization and productivity and things like that. But what I would also like to see is how can we make our mental better? How can we get rid of limiting beliefs? How can we change those limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs? How can we get understanding of the different mindsets that are out there and understanding what mindset you might be operating in? And is that mindset serving you or hindering you from being your optimal self? When you talk about the body, let's keep it real. Let's talk about the exercising, which you mentioned that I do. I'm an extreme hip hop group fitness instructor. So I do high cardio sort of programs. And I'm going to tell you, some of them programs, when I'm done after teaching for 2 hours, I'll be exhausted. But I feel great because I know I have poured into my body to keep it well, to keep it healthy. I am not the greatest at eating all the time because I have a very busy life, like you said. So sometimes I don't make the greatest choices, but I do try and eat relatively healthy foods. And I try and instill that in my family, even though it's not working though, because I have 18-year-olds and you know what they're like when they're 18, they just go and eat whatever they feel they want to eat because they feel they're invincible. Right. That sort of thing. But I try and be that example. Right. So how can you take care of your body? You mentioned meditation. Meditation is great. How many times do people just take a moment out of their day to just take a break from everything that they're working on and maybe just breathe? Like my Apple Watch tells me it's time to breathe. Right. And you don't even realize that I am breathing. I'm still alive. But no, really breathe. How those deep breaths can get that oxygen flowing and all that good stuff. So taking care of that and then really understanding your purpose. Why do you exist? What are you destined to do? Is it really just to be a business analyst, or do you have more in you that we need to experience in the world beyond you just being a business analyst or a technology developer or a project manager? Quite sure there's more to you than just that. So why can't we experience that side of you too? Those gifts and those talents that you bring. So really tapping in, understanding your why, your purpose on life, and then letting us experience it. So those are the sort of things that I can see as great topics to get people thinking and to bring more fulfilling conversations. I don't know, like, what do you think, Joe? What are some of the ideas you think that would be great?
I got a little list here, so I'm gonna, and you've pretty much checked all of them off. I think I think it's good that we cover some of the work stuff, right? Because I think you talked about prioritization, productivity, and I guess what those two things talk to is performance, isn't it? It's like the three P's, right? So that means that we're sort of bringing our best self to work. We're getting as much done as we can. We're being smart about what we do. We got to accept, or we got to assume that there's a level of competence in there to enable us to do that. Not that we're going to cover technical competence in this or sort of skills building, but I think that's really good, because if you are to achieve those other things in life, you need to have time to do them. So you've got to be smart with your time. So I think prioritization is great there. I think one of the things that I'd like to bring into that, which is perhaps a topic on its own, or maybe it's a subtopic, I don't know, but focus. Like, it's great that you prioritize what you have to do, like when you have to do it, if it's 1, 2, 3 on the list. And sure, you're being productive in that you're doing lots of things, but when you're doing them, focus. And I'm not necessarily talking about the art of not being distracted, but obviously, I think being distracted is a big part of topics too. But what can I do to concentrate, to actually make the most and to almost block everything else out. So I'll be interested to talk about focus. I mean, you sort of covered, I think we've said sleep, we've said exercise, we've said healthy food. You talked about limiting beliefs. I think that's a fantastic thing. I think the flip side perhaps of sort of unlimited beliefs is self-sabotage maybe. And I think we often have a little voice narrating to us like, ooh, what if this goes wrong? So I sort of see those two things hand in hand. I think that would be excellent. And perhaps finding our purpose. I can't remember if you mentioned finding our purpose, but if you're gonna not have limited beliefs, you're gonna have unlimited aspirations, then. And as you said, are we only going to be a business analyst in our life, in our career, or is there something greater inside of us? So if we have this unlimited aspiration, then what is that? Where are we going? What are we going to become? So I think, finding a little bit about purpose might be quite fun. I think something else, on perhaps a more serious note to bring in, might be some mental health talk, actually. I think a lot of this series, and it very naturally came here, to this sort of theme and conclusion, but it is so relevant based on the last sort of 2 years of what we've had. People being isolated, people being in new environments, people feeling the pressure of, it's difficult to work from home as much as it's joyous in many ways. It's difficult. It takes a lot to do. So, and it's not going to suit all kinds of people, all personality types or characters. So I think mental health might be something as well that I'd like to talk about, and then just generally what I call work-life integration. I don't believe in balance, because that implies there's just two sides to the scale, and it sort of always tips in favour of one or the other, and that overall they both get their dues. I think now, it's more complex than that. Like, things come together. You might go in and out of work 3 or 4 times a day, depending on fetching children, going to the gym, a shopping trip, a cup of coffee, catch up with someone. So it's not just like splitting your day 50-50. I think it's like an hour here, half hour there, an hour. And in many ways, you might actually extend your working day from the time it starts to the time it ends, because you've filled some other stuff in the middle. So I don't know, we could talk about some stuff there too. How does that sound?
That sounds amazing to me. I love work-life integration. I don't think I ever heard it put that way until you just said it. I've always thought of it as you need to have work-life balance, but this concept of work-life integration, I love that. I love that topic. And I also loved how you put limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, and even that imposter syndrome all sort of like in one. I think that could be a great conversation to have on how, and then on the flip side, how do you change like the limiting beliefs into empowering beliefs, and how do you change that self-sabotage into empowerment and fulfilling? I'm excited. These are gonna be some great conversations. I'm excited. It's gonna be awesome.
It is going to be awesome. And I mean, this year I've been doing a bit of reading, and the book that I've been pondering on, because I think in any books, it's important not to just read the book and go, oh, this is great, let's implement it, let's do it, because books don't cover every scenario for every person, and I think you need to take the best, there's many books that cover the same topics, so you've sort of got to take the best of what works for you within there. But I've been reading the 5 a.m. Club, and one thing I do like about the 5 a.m. Club is that it is sort of this balance. It accepts that actually it's not just this sort of, there's almost this model put out there of what is the epitome of, let's say, optimal productivity self, and it's this person who gets up at 5 a.m. and they probably just work solid all the way through and then burn the midnight oil, and then they survive on like 4 or 5 hours sleep, and then they're up again at it the next day. And I feel like that character, that persona, has been pushed onto us through, sure, it's worked hugely well for many people, but that's a few. So the 5 a.m. Club, what I like about it, it does say, okay, there is exercise, there is meditation, there is journaling, there is family time, there is doing fun stuff, and then there is productive work, and that's perhaps where this focus comes in that I talk about, because if you get that right, then all the other stuff around it is stuff that you can do. So trying to find an answer to that, but also accepting that chances are the kind of people listening aren't the kind of people who can just get up at 5 a.m. and disappear for 12 hours, and actually not be involved in other aspects of their life, but that they do have kids who need to be run to school. They do have lunches to make. They do have suicide hour, of bath times and bedtimes, or they do have other family responsibilities. They're caring for people, or they're doing a lot more in their community. They're helping out, they're volunteering, or whatever it is. And I think finding a way to do all of that is going to be pretty cool.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. I love it. So
it's so good.
I am excited. Yes.
So one of the other things I think we need to talk about before we go is how people listening can get involved. I think, first of all, we've suggested some topics. Nothing is concrete yet. If there is other things that people have that they would like to hear talked about, let us know. Drop it in the comments, please. We have a page on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. All /168FM. We have an email address, crew@168.fm. So please drop us any topics that you have. What do you think about guests, Paula? Do you have anybody in mind? We don't have to, I don't think we should maybe name anyone yet, just in case we don't get them, but do you have people in mind for this?
I do. I have a few good people that I think would be great for them to come online and speak to our audience. And I know they'll be phenomenal because I've heard them speak, and I've had the opportunity to share the stage with a couple of them that I know will bring awesome content, different perspective. And like you said, the last 2 years has been crazy, right? So a lot of people have reevaluated things. So there's some fresh ideas and fresh perspectives coming out. So I do have some ideas of some people, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get them and have some really great conversations. How about you? You have any people in mind based on what we talked about today?
Yeah, I have a couple of people I think I can get in touch with. And you've reminded me of one of the ideas I didn't actually cover. There's the bell. The 24 minutes is up. So if you want to hear what that last idea is, you're going to have to tune in to the series coming up, I'm afraid, because I can't cover it now. So
There it is.
yeah, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your support. You can subscribe to the Paula and Joe Show on your pod player of choice, be it iTunes, Google, Spotify, and please help us rise up the podcast charts by giving us a 5-star rating. And of course, you can keep the riff going by leaving your comments over on the blog at 168.fm. That's the words 1, 6 and 8, not the numbers. We'd love to hear the hot topics on your mind. We'd love to hear about the speakers you want to hear. Paula and I will join you there. Until then, take care and keep growing.